Hello everyone, welcome to VMS class. We have seen various data types which include the primitive data types and collections data type. And we have a special data type in Python that is none, also called as none type in Python. So consider a banking application. A new customer creates an account. The system is going to store the customer name, mobile number, email, and address. But sometimes the customers skip the address during the registration. Now, think a moment here. Should the system store address equal to empty string or the address equal to 0 or the address equal to unknown? How the system is going to store the address? The user is not providing the address. Now, in that case, it can be either empty string or it can be 0 or it can be unknown. So, if you notice that all these three possible cases are not suitable, those are not correct because here address is not empty. Empty is also a value, 0 is also a value, unknown is also a value. We need to specify that the address is not an empty string. It is not 0. It is not unknown. So how can you specify that value? So we can use a none in this case. Okay, none is a special value which is a keyword. This is where Python provides a special value called none. So what is none here? None is a special built-in constant. Okay, none is a special built-in constant in Python. It represents no value or it can represent no data, nothing. The value is not assigned yet. So it represents this kind of meaning. So whenever you want to say there is no value, no data, nothing is there, value is not assigned. In this case, you can use none. Unlike integers, strings, or list, none is having its own unique data type called none type. Okay, none type is there. So how can you create a none here? Very simple. You can take any variable value equal to none. Here n is uppercase letter, the remaining are lowercase letters. If you print a value, then it is going to print a none. And if you print the type of value, then it is going to display none type. Okay, so let me show you this in the ideally shell. Here, value equal to none. If you print a value, then you can get nothing. Okay, because nothing is there, right? So if you print the type of value, then it is going to show you none type. Okay, let me print, you can use print statement, print the value. If you print a value, you can see here none is there. Okay, so none represents something is not there or nothing is there. Okay, so we can say this kind of meaning here. So whenever there is an employee, for that employee who is the manager, so manager has not assigned it, so none. In this case, you can use none here. In multiple cases, you can use none. So here, the variable value does not contain a number. It is not a string or a list. Instead, it stores the special value none. When we check its type, it is going to print none type. Consider another example program student marks not entered. So student name is Akhil, marks equal to none, not entered. If you print student name, you will get Akhil. If you print marks, it will print none. Here the student marks have not been entered yet. Instead of storing the marks is 0, right? You should not store marks as 0, or marks should be empty string. No. In this case, you can assign marks equal to none. This is the correct way because it indicates that marks are not available yet. Okay. I want to store the customer address here. Another program I have written customer equal to Priya, address equal to none. If you print customer, it is going to print Priya. If you print address, it is going to print none. The customer is there, but address has not been provided. So using none clearly indicates that the information is missing. As I mentioned, the employee is Amit, manager is none. Manager has not been assigned H. If you print employee, you can get Amit. If you print manager, you can get none. Instead of storing incorrect information, you can use none here. Okay, you can try all these examples. Product equal to laptop, discount equal to none. If you print a product, it is going to print a laptop. If you print a discount, it is going to print a none. The product is currently has no discount. How can you say that? No discount. In this case, you can use a none. Later, you can replace this value none with some other any integer number, some percentage of discount. Even this none is mainly useful in the functions. Whenever you don't want to return some value, at that time, the function is going to return none. I have defined def welcome is the function name print welcome to Python. Here result equal to welcome. You're calling this function. So it will go here and print welcome to Python. And after this function is not returning anything. There is no return statement. So in this case, it is going to return none. So here none will come over here. So that none will be assigned to result. So when you print result, it is going to print a none. Very simple concept. This function is not having return. So by default, any function is going to return none. So this is going to replace with a none. That none will be stored in the result. I am printing the result here. So I will explain the functions in more detail in the upcoming lessons. But I want to tell you something, a very important point here. Return a value. If you don't return a value in the function, by default, it returns none. The function prints a message but does not return any value. By default, Python returns none. Okay, so this is something you will encounter frequently when writing the functions. So I have given an example here where you can use this none in the software development process. Many times you can use database fields that don't have value set. So you have a variable but don't have value. At that time you can use none. User profile information that has not been entered, you can use none. API responses when no data is found, you can use none. Search operations that don't find any matching record. You are searching something, but there is no matching result. At that time, you can use a none. Most of the machine learning data sets with missing values. If something is missing, at that time, you can use none. Optional functional parameters. You can use none in many kind of form validations also. So instead of storing 0 or an empty string, Python uses this none to represent the absence of a value. Anywhere there is an absence of a value, you can use none. And some of the important points here regarding this none. None is a singleton. Python creates only one none object. Every variable assigned none refers to the same object in the memory. So it is a very important point. So because none is a singleton object, So when you use none to multiple variables, so those indicates the same object in the memory. For example, I am taking here a equal to none. Okay, type of a, it is none type. You can use id of a. What is the address of that? Now you can use b equal to none. You can see what is the type of b. It is also none type. You can see the id of this b. You can see that the address of a and b both are same. So you can create any number of objects because none is a singleton object. You can create any number of references. So all these references are pointing to the same object. Even you can create another object c equal to none. You can see the id of c. It is also pointing to the same object. It's a very important point. Okay. So that is what none is a here a singleton object. Okay, so if you use a is b here in this case, so a is b is true when these two objects are pointing to the same object. So here a is b true. Okay, if you take any other object, for example f equal to some 10, if you say a is f, it is false because the address of a and address of f both are different, so it will show false. Here, in this case, the address of A, B, and C are same. So that's why A is B, it is going to return true. Even you can use A is C, it is returning true because both are pointing to the same object. Okay. So whenever you want to compare none, you have to use is. Okay. At the time, you can say both are pointing to the same object. If value is none, then print no value. Okay, if value is any other number, then it is not none. Okay, so whenever you want to check in the if condition, always try to use a is operator instead of equal to operator. Okay, none is different from zero. So as mentioned, none is not equal to zero. None equal to zero, no, false, because none is different and zero is different. Even none is not equal to empty string. Okay, false. Because empty string is different, none is different. None has its own meaning. Okay, even none is equal to false. No. Okay, false is different, none is different. So it is going to return false. So very important point, none is not equal to 0, not equal to empty string, it is not equal to false also. So all are having different meanings. None is simply a nothing, or you can say no information is available. Okay. So here I mentioned none is different from an empty string. Even none is different from the false. Okay. So let us see some of the important questions here. The definition, what is none in Python? None is a special built-in constant in Python that represents the absence of a value or no value. It has its own data type called none type. If someone asks you none is of what data type, none is of its own data type, none type. So what is the data type of none? Here, the data type of none is none type. If you use x equal to none, print type of x, it is going to show you the class is none type. What is the difference between none and zero? None means no value is assigned, whereas zero is a valid integer value. If you print none equal to 0, it is going to return false because these two are different. Why should none be compared using is instead of equal to? So none is a singleton object. So the recommended way to compare it is using the is operator. When a value equal to none, then always try to use if value is none, then print value is none. So instead of using equal to operator, you can always try to use is operator. Okay. What does a function return if it does not have any return statement? As mentioned, the functions are going to return default value as none. If a function does not explicitly return a value, Python automatically returns none. Okay, give some real world applications of none in Python. None is commonly used to represent missing or unavailable data. You can use to store customer address not provided, student marks not entered, employee manager not assigned, database fields with missing values, API response when no data is found, default value for optional function parameters. In all these cases, you can use none. Okay. So remember, none is not zero, none is not empty string. Thank you. I will see you in the next lesson.